What is up, Asymmetry? How you all doing? Oh my goodness, it is a warm spring. We've been watering a lot. And I've been looking forward to this podcast because we started using Goodland's hoses 2 years ago at Mirai. The owner, Craig, reached out to us and said, "Hey, I think our hose might be something that you guys could utilize." He sent us some samples. We've been betaing his products and trying them out, and I'm a believer. I'm a believer in what Goodland does. Craig and Kendra Pearce started the company during the pandemic. They've been continuing to add to their product line over the few years that they've been in business. And the design, the craftsmanship, the material quality, and the lifetime guarantee, which is, in my mind, their commitment to bucking the trend of consumerism and trying to supply something that enhances your ability to do what you love to do in your garden at the highest level. They had me at hello, literally. And after 2 years of using their products, we're now carrying their hoses. You can get them at goods.bonsai.com because we believe in what they're doing so much. So getting to know Craig was awesome. I'm excited for you guys to get to hear about his journey in creating such a killer company that has the same level of intention in what they do as we aspire to and try to create at Mirai. I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to turn it over to Craig. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Craig Pearce, everybody.
My wife and I have a garden here, and we just last year we kind of got into it a little bit. This year grew it a bit more, but there's like a pond way into the bushes up here, and I've been like basically siphoning the water from that into like a big rainwater collection thing, and then trying to set up an irrigation for our garden here. And it's been so fun, actually. I like don't know anything about that really. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff that involves water, but setting up like the natural collection of it and then distributing that through like kind of a drip irrigation thing it's like playing with Lego, basically, you know?
Yeah.
It's super cool.
I'm about ready to, yeah, that's part of our garden build. But going back to your question about Mirai and the garden and like what is this place? So we've got a 5-acre spot here, and
Hmm.
we've slowly grown from using like an acre to 2 acres to now we're probably up to utilizing like 3 of the 5 acres. And
Yeah.
and when I talk about our garden build projects and stuff, I'm primarily talking about this place.
Yeah.
But we also have projects that we're doing with students or clients of ours across, at times internationally, but generally across the
Hmm.
United States. So we're working on a project in Louisiana. We're working on a project in Chicago. We're working on a project
Okay, cool.
in Wisconsin, because
Nice.
my background is actually in landscape design, like
Hmm.
design build. So that's
Hmm.
what I did in high school. It's what I did in college. Inside of the horticultural major, like I focused on landscape design. It helped put me
Yeah.
through school and do all that stuff, right? So like
Yeah. Yeah.
I love building gardens.
Yeah.
And this place is an amalgamation of several gardens because I like when I conceptualized this place, I wanted to create almost like a village kind of a vibe.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and so that has really kind of become the goal of what I'm doing here is to make this space like we've got multiple buildings
Hmm.
that serve a lot of different functions, and there's like a few more buildings I would like to construct over the course of time to kind of
Yeah.
end with that like village vibe. But there's gardens that intertwine all of these buildings, and that has been the best part of it is like the spaces between the buildings is really what gets me super excited.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah. Having that kind of, the built structure like incorporated into your gardens, and that you got to, I mean, your landscape design, this better than anybody else, but defining spaces actually is what kind of you're all about, right?
Yeah.
Like, using these buildings or greenhouses or, different types of planting to define spaces is really what makes a good garden, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there are definitely, like, inside of designing a garden space, I think there are themes that people don't typically think of garden design or landscape design as being thematic. I think a lot of people tend to look at it rather, um, maybe bucolic would be a good way to describe how people look at it, or maybe as an activity or as a source of enjoyment. But a landscape
Hmm.
can be a lot of different things. And so the theme that kind of dictates and drives our landscape here is scale and proportion. And I like to play on
Yeah.
the
Right.
polarities of
Yeah.
abstracting that, because
That's
I'm dealing
cool.
with tiny trees that
Totally.
are supposed
Yeah.
to represent big trees in miniature. And so what I've done with the garden is I've oversized as much as I physically can, oversize the
Hmm.
garden to maximize the miniaturization of the trees. And that
Yeah.
that like
Right.
scale play is really really
Mm,
fun.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
why
that's
not
an
push it, you
interesting
know?
thought. Yeah, no, that makes more sense. Like, yeah, if you have this large scale around it, it'll make the exaggerate the mininess of that bonsai tree. That's
Exactly.
really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. What I mean, what did you do before Goodland?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a background in mostly furniture design. So
Oh, you're
I
kidding.
was really drawn to, I've always been a creative person, and as a young guy trying to find ways to express my creativity. I drew, I painted, I tried all those kind of traditional things when you think of, oh, what does a creative person do? And just none of them quite hit with me. Like was awful at them essentially. And then it wasn't until I kind of got on a construction site in a really small rural town. Like this construction, this is like early 2000s, and I just wanted to get out there, bang nails, kind of break a sweat and learn some skills. And this construction company, before you could order furniture online, they would just basically, someone needed bar stools, like they would just whip up a pair of bar stools for the customer. The customer was needed a bunk bed for their kid. Well, we would just make a bunk bed for their
Cool.
kids.
Very cool.
And it was when that kind of world was shown to me that I thought, oh, this is an interesting, that you can be creative and then have this physical product in the end that someone actually uses. Someone uses it, like you make a pair of um, or a bunk bed or some bar stools. Like those things are getting used every day for dozens of years, and they just become a part of someone's life. And it was that you could take the thought of creativity and apply to something physical that people literally interact with every single day. And that's where it kind of like lit a spark in me. And I thought, oh, furniture is really for me. So I ran a furniture company for called Union Woodco in Vancouver here for dozens of years. And that it was really kind of, Goodland was kind of born off of that. Essentially, it was like, well, okay, we've done a lot of work on inside world here, working with solid wood, fabricating metal bases sometimes, or solid wood joinery bases. Um, and then I transitioned. Goodland was like I opened the door to like, well, what about the outside world?
Mm.
Maybe we could apply these same principles, the same kind of, putting craft and quality together to make something for the outdoors.
And where did the ethos of slowing down, and I'm just taking this, you have more literal statements of your value system at Goodland, but what I'm taking from it is basically get outside and let the outdoors calm you, enhance your life, and heal you. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
where did that come from? Was that a part of growing up in where you're at? Is that a part of the woodwork, or where does all that come from?
I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but it could have been, I camped a lot as a child or something like that. I
Hmm.
mean, I grew up in a pretty average, household with brothers and sisters running around, kind of going to school, that kind of thing, playing sports, doing all the usual things. But I didn't have a huge interest in, the outdoors specifically then. Um, and I think my wife Kendra and I, who is like a co-owner of Goodland, so we kind of spawned this thing together. We were living, downtown Vancouver in kind of a a cool high-rise loft thing that we loved, and we kind of just decided one day that we wanted to get out of the the rat race kind of type thing, get out of the city, get away from the traffic, and move out to we live right now on Bowen Island, which is a little island just outside of Vancouver. So it's about a 25-minute ferry to get to, kind of thing. So we can still get to the city for a show or a concert or whatever you want to do, or
Mhm.
go for a nice dinner. But then at the end of the day, we get to come home. We're surrounded by giant firs, cedar trees, and we got no flat acreage here on Bowen Island. Everything's rocky, but we're like, I'm nestled up against a giant bedrock, kind of cliff behind me here, and we're
Cool.
tucked in. There's moss and trees and lots of life around. So that was something we just kind of decided one day, like, let's get the hell out of the city and let's go. I think it was kind of like before we had started a family, but we were like, we knew we wanted to do that in the future, and let's just take the dog and let's go live in the woods for a little while,
Hmm.
and see how we like that lifestyle. And just having the space and the freedom to do, chop, split wood, have a garden, like all those are things that we wanted to do that we just couldn't really, really do in the city, or we didn't feel that we could do it the way we wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was kind of the origin of what spawned us in taking that time to engage with nature. So we wanted to switch our whole lifestyle to be with that, essentially, right? And it is a being in nature kind of thing, but it's also like when we talk about, I think, the practice that you guys have, bonsai, or splitting firewood, or all these kind of, like, let's say, things that we do outside. They're in nature, but you're participating in them. You're fully engaged. You're not half thinking about something else, or you're not on your phone, for example. And I think that it's actually that part. So it is being in nature, but it also is um, you, like participating in nature too, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, being
So
fully present, fully engaged.
fully present,
Yeah.
which is an interesting dichotomy. I think when you think about that and the way it relates to bonsai, like, you're taking that engagement in nature, like, to the next level kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. I really value that. I recognize the mm, I recognize the slightly unnatural nature of what we're doing because we're containing nature a little bit, and we're
Hmm.
and we're and
Hmm.
we're sculpting and forming and structuring nature. And if you're doing it at a high level, you're really enhancing in the smaller scale the organization. Not to say that like a tree needs my help to be organized and
Hmm.
function at its highest level, but inside of this
Right.
confined environment, it does. And that structure and that organization and that function that you start to realize from all of those things when you start to extrapolate that onto the macro scale, I think really does give people who practice bonsai the gift. And I think this is goes hand in hand with being aware of water as such a significant resource. I mean, you guys are making hoses, and it sounds like, oh, you're making hoses. Well, that's this thing, but it's like the hoses that Goodland is making are different than the hoses that everybody else is making. The spirit
Hmm.
behind them is different, and you're providing an essential thing to the plants that bring you joy, value, nourishment, etc. In a way with a mentality that I think is incredibly healthy and helpful, right? And I think
Hmm.
bonsai gives you that awareness and that relationship in another way. Like on extrapolated to the
Yeah.
macro, it's like, oh, we're stewards.
Yeah.
We have opted to alter the natural state of things. And that means that
Hmm.
now we have a responsibility, or else this thing can go off the rails, right? Which
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
argument that maybe it is going off the rails, and what are we going to do about it? But we do, I think, just being aware that we do have an impact, and we do have the ability to ultimately shift for the better or worse the trajectory of things in the natural environment, I think is a huge level of awareness that bonsai can give somebody. Maybe the most valuable
That's a good point.
level of
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah, that's a good point when you think about it as a whole environment, actually like, and so what about bonsai, Ryan, like originally pulled you into it? So you've got a background in landscape,
Uh-huh.
horticulture.
Yeah.
What was it about bonsai that kind of drew you
Yeah.
into its world?
Yeah, I think definitely I didn't realize how much I enjoyed design when I was 12 years old and I found bonsai.
Hmm.
And I think the look of bonsai was very cool to me. But what I
Hmm.
came to really understand is when I saw a bonsai that captured my attention, um, there was an anthropomorphizing of that tree. Like if it captured my attention, it had a personality, and to think that a tree could have a personality was really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't have defined it at the time, but that has become something that I'm very aware of now. Like I know that I'm done with a
Hmm.
design when I see the personality of that tree. And the personality of that
Interesting.
tree, really the master that I studied with in Japan, I thought he gave more personality to a tree than anybody else. That's why I went to study with
Wow.
him. I wanted to know how to convey to that tree with what it had to offer and its uniqueness. I wanted to know how to convey and maximize its ability to express its personality. That is really
Hmm.
at the heart of what I do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't apply that exact word to it, personality, but I think it does describe exactly what the essence that you pull from a bonsai when you're looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the fascinating thing about living in North America is that we have such a resource for undisturbed forests and undisturbed
Hmm.
landmass, and obviously
Hmm.
that is shrinking and that's changing and that's a part of, modern times, but we're still very fortunate to have access to that. And that was really a tool for me coming back from Japan that gave me a different inspiration than what was inspiring most people to make bonsai, because I realized that there's a narrative arc to a tree's life. And
Hmm.
in that narrative arc, there's an aesthetic to that narrative arc. And I realized that
Hmm.
there's an aesthetic and a narrative arc to elements acting on a tree. And so
Hmm.
I started finding myself jumping into these unfathomable timelines where I really did get to understand trees on a more intimate level, on a macro scale, and try to emulate
Hmm.
that in a miniaturized form. And that endeavor of understanding and being able to read a tree that's 3,000 years old and understand the landmass from
Hmm.
those scars and indicators, and then to be able to duplicate that or utilize a tree to reflect that, that was something that had not ever been done um, post World War II, with really the cultural shift of bonsai in Japan,
Hmm.
and that became the most distributed model on a global scale of bonsai.
Hmm.
I really find the pre World War II forms of Japanese bonsai to be the most interesting because it's the most contained. There's no boundaries to it, and it really
Hmm.
was a natural representation. So, what I'm doing now is a lot more in line with what bonsai was for the first 700 or 800 years it was practiced,
Hmm.
and is a little bit farther from what it's been the past 70 or 80 years since it really
Cool.
became
Hmm.
domesticated. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I didn't realize there was such a like so many like a different shift in the way that the practice can be executed. Really, um, that's really interesting.
I think that's the
I
human
love it.
I think that's the human component. I wouldn't say human intervention, but I would say it's the human
Hmm.
contribution, because I do think
Hmm.
the human contribution to bonsai is what makes bonsai so magnetic to
Hmm.
people, right? Like without the human
Hmm.
component of it, it is a plant and people are either going to value that plant or they're not. But suddenly,
Hmm.
when there's a human component to it, people identify and connect with it a little bit more, maybe because we are establishing through the techniques a scale and proportion that does emulate nature in miniature. And
Yeah,
I think that becomes really fun, to be able to use that tree to give context or create critical dialogue is important. It's not just about making something pretty or cool
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. D- Does does an individual's taste play a role in how that comes together? What kind of role does human interaction and someone's specific taste or style kind of apply to that?
I think it's huge. I think ultimately you could look at somebody creates a bonsai tree or
Hmm.
a collection of bonsai trees as a professional who looks at a lot of people's trees and a lot of, and
Yeah.
interacts with a lot of people on a personal level.
Yeah.
You can see somebody in their trees. I can look at somebody's trees and
Hmm.
I can know a lot about that person before I ever even hear them
Mm.
speak. And I think that is really cool. So to your point, I think there's like cultural elements that tell you where that stylized bonsai tree came from culturally. I think
Right.
there's personal indicators that tell you what that person kind of values, maybe a little bit about their personality and character. It's almost like a dog, like a dog starts to look like its owner.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of
Totally. Yeah.
vibe. Yeah,
Yeah.
on a little
Yeah.
less overt, like you know, kind of kitschy level, but it is very real. Yeah, and people have preferences for sure. There were like
Yeah.
there were trends in Japan in the late 1800s, early 1900s where they wanted something very austere and clean, and they didn't like the radicalness of the most contorted, tortured
Hmm.
material out of the wild. And then in like the
Hmm.
early 1900s, this change of trend to find this dramatic shape and form kind of entered the realm of Japanese bonsai, and it changed the aesthetic entirely. Well,
Yeah.
in the United States, like, and I would say in the Western world in general, prior to the presence of the master that I apprenticed with, Masahiko Kimura, there was a very domestic, um, almost symmetrical form of bonsai that was meant to be very peaceful and calming. And he
Mm.
really took that traditional sense of calm and balance, and he just like flipped it on its head, literally and
Mm.
physically, and it changed everything.
Interesting.
Changed everything about the way we think
Wow.
about bonsai on a global scale now. That single individual changed everything.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
revolutionary.
that's just, you know, to him thinking outside the box, essentially, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
And
Yep.
just wanting to apply his own style, his own taste to that, and wow, something like that can shift.
Well, and I think what becomes the inspiration for anything starts to alter the outcome. So um, if he's being inspired by Michelangelo or Rembrandt or Van Gogh or Picasso,
Yeah.
and he's taking that inspiration and making trees with that, that's going to be different than somebody that's inspired by somebody who's been making bonsai for the past
Hmm.
50 years. Like that's going to
Hmm.
create a different, and I think all of those inputs really start to add to. It's why I started asking you, like, how did Goodland's identity come about? Because it's really beautiful the way that you guys talk about
Hmm.
what you're doing and think about what you're doing. And to know that you were working in this high level craft, very malleable woodworking shop that really met the needs of the clients, and then you moved out into the wild and changed your lifestyle. It's, oh, okay. Yeah. There's the DNA of Goodland right there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's all about just, you know, I think there's a lot of tie between bonsai and just, we feel like the more effort that you put into something. So, whether that be talking about woodworking or, building a fire in one of our wood burning hot tubs or, caring after your bonsai and manipulating it, like the bigger the reward from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, it's great to be able to see, and you guys are able to execute like a extreme level of patience that I truly admire. Like, our some of our products that our wood burning hot tub that you start the little fire in it, a couple hours later you're able to soak in a water heated by fire. um that's like a 2 hour patience cycle kind of
Uh-huh.
thing, and what you guys are up to with bonsai is just so like I have such an admiration for that, and aspire one day. I tell my wife, like, one day I'm gonna, like, you know get into bonsai because it's such a great practice. And
Yeah, you've got a
like,
very significant bonsai culture up around you too. Vancouver's a hotbed.
yeah, oh yeah, there's a deep Japanese history here
Yep.
too.
Yep.
So I'm sure that plays a role in
Huge.
it.
Huge. And you've
Um,
got extreme individuals. Bonsai, as peaceful as the art form is and as much patience as it requires, historically draws impatient people that are slightly crazy. And you've got some good crazy up around you. Gerald Rainville is up there doing really fantastic things. He studied down on, yeah, on Shikoku and Takamatsu, and there have been some really pivotal and critical figures that have passed away that
Cool.
have left a lineage around Vancouver that's really, really impressive and
Interesting.
inspiring. Yeah.
Interesting. I would love to learn more about that. I mean, history and of our city, and in our area in the world is something I've always been really drawn to. So I never thought, I didn't consider that too much, but I think that's interesting. I definitely need to nerd out on that a little bit for sure. I'd have to go in a deep dive on the history of bonsai and Vancouver.
Oh, you should. Yeah, and there's people up there to talk to you about that as well. I mean, Canada and
Mm,
bonsai in general is a big deal. Like Canada
cool.
has a history of bonsai. Montreal is another really pivotal bonsai
Interesting.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is fascinating. But let me ask you, in moving out of the city and living, what you called it, Bone Island.
It's called Bowen Island. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you live on Bone Island, you've got this like rock outcropping and these trees around you and stuff, but you started this company that really is about creating kind of lifetime lasting goods. So not this like not this material replacement, wear it out and buy it again kind of a thing. You're making something to last. And what you're making is designed to allow people to slow down and appreciate the lifestyle that comes with being in the
Yeah.
outdoors. Yeah, right. Um, Doing that as a business and depending on that, has that made it harder for you to slow down at all? Has that in any way changed that
Yeah.
relationship? Because I can tell you, for me, it trying to make a living doing bonsai, it does change that relationship, or at least it is a source of stress inside of the source of joy,
Hmm.
and lifestyle that I'm seeking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting one, and I'm sure talking to other creatives or business owners, yourself or all the other people that surround your world. Do we always practice what we preach? Like not always. I could definitely pause more and spend more time engaging with nature. I mean, I think that was one thing that encouraged us to move out in nature. We can't just I wasn't I'm an ambitious person. I wasn't just going to give up on life and do nothing with my time and collect collect a paycheck from the government or something like that. I
Sure.
wanted to come out and whether I'm you know busy with the kids or doing work, like I am surrounded by nature and we're always engaging with it. Cleaning the windows, sweeping the deck off, like pine needles all over the place. So whether we like it or not, we are always engaging with nature out here because we're living out like right in it. Um, and we had sometimes like our company started in COVID essentially, and it wasn't like because of COVID, but that was definitely a spark that really lit it. And I think everybody had to step away from what they were doing, and you know take a bit of time. I was taking time away from the wood shop for that time, kind of closed it down a little bit then, and just had to take more pause. And all of a sudden, we do just have more time in the day to do something around
Hmm.
outside. Um, so that was my peak pause, I'd say, was COVID, but that was when we kind of cracked the door open to Goodland, and working pretty hard at this company and to share the message of pause and enjoyment outside, engagement. um, and so I'm probably not the best at it. I try to do it as much as I can. I try to make time. I go for a run in the woods all the time.
Yeah.
We don't work on the weekends, so we try to diligently practice pausing in nature, but balancing that with a real life, of course, too, right? So, and I think that's the one thing about our products too is the garden host specifically is you got your you use the garden hose when you're watering, doing bonsai, growing tomato plants, but you also do it just for, it's a product you're interacting with everyday life. I mean, maybe you're blasting, the bird poop off your railing, or, you're
Yeah.
cleaning the gutters out, or washing your car or something. It's just, these are parts of everyday life. And we wanted to make that experience just more enjoyable,
Yeah.
essentially. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are doing these things that are, yeah, kind of chores a little bit, but let's make the best of this. And instead of using some, crappy, Home Depot hose that cracks and sprays water everywhere and leaks at every fitting, like let's make a product with intention. Let's focus on the details and try to get this right. And hey, it's going to be expensive, but I had the gut feeling that people with something like this, people like investing in things that are going to last them a long time,
Oh yeah.
and that they care for, right? I mean, you guys, that's the business you guys are essentially
It's
into, is
backbone of what we
people get
do. Yep.
things, they want to care for it, they want to have it forever. That that doesn't mean something can never go wrong, but I like the thought of, all of our equipment is made with like replaceable parts too. So, there's a little gasket in the nozzle. Well, if the gasket breaks, I mean, we need it there. It has a function of the nozzle, but if the gasket breaks, you don't just, throw that in the garbage and buy a new nozzle. We have a little gasket replacement kit and get that out to you, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
um, that you could, having products outside, just the same way you guys with your trees, things get wear and tear, right? Like the heat, the wind, the snow, the rain, like it all plays into what we're doing here. So um it's, the environment is hard on things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um making sure that they're strong and as tough as they can be, and then anything that could go wrong, like we have a plan to fix that or easily replace that without having to chuck your whole, 100-foot hose in the trash just to sit in the landfill forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always been a big thing for me. I mean, at Mirai, obviously hoses are a big part of what we do. We water 3 times a day in the middle of summer. We hand water everything.
Yeah.
So like we're dragging hoses
Yeah.
sometimes 8 or 9 hours a day in August.
Yeah.
And we put a lot of wear and tear on anything that we get here. So my dad was this type of person who didn't buy many things, but if he did buy
Hmm.
something, it was going to be the best that he could afford, and he was going to take care of it so that it lasted as long as it possibly could.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was really happy. As I've gotten older, I'm like really grateful for my dad's approach. He was like the son of a rancher and grew up on a ranch, and so they had this kind of old world
Hmm.
like buy good solid equipment, take care of it, use it hard, but use it well. And so when I first came to Mirai in Japan, we were replacing hoses constantly because they were just like cheap, crappy hoses. And Mr. Kimura's mentality about that is if it breaks, just get another one. And I really, from when I was a kid, didn't like that mentality. Like I remember when Walmart
Hmm.
came to my town and it put all of the ma and pa shops out of business. And as a kid, I just thought,
Yeah.
this sucks, you know? This like
Yeah.
disposable mentality sucks. And as a
Yeah.
kid, I didn't understand the depth of it, but it was something tangible that I remember from my childhood when Walmart moved in. How devastating it was and how it changed just the
Hmm.
fabric of our town. So I've always been looking, and when I came back, Flexigen offered a lifetime guarantee on their hose, and then I think they went out of business or sold it to somebody else, and then that disappeared, and their hoses broke down anyways. And I was just like, God, that thing like that quality that you're looking for. Like somebody told me the other day, they're like, um, you would be the most profound mind to create a spray bottle that doesn't break. But unfortunately, if you created a spray bottle that doesn't break, you would go broke. And it's unfortunate because spray bottles inevitably break. We use them a lot here. We look for the highest quality spray bottle. But
Yeah.
if it didn't break, you're not going to make a living selling spray bottles. And I think that that's a
Mm.
devastating reality. So
Mm.
when we found you guys and you sent us the original hose, We
That
have
sounds like a challenge for us, by the way. But yeah,
I'm secretly
I'm
floating it
taking
out
it
to
as
you
a challenge.
guys because your engineering is phenomenal in everything that you make. Your brass faucet has been
Oh
a
yeah,
game changer for this
yeah.
operation. It is such a pleasure to use. It is durable, it's beautiful, it fits in with everything
Mhm,
else that we do. It's been monumental in terms of the shift of just a small little station where we function a lot with water for our trees. That thing has been
mhm.
revolutionary. But the hose has really been the one that changed everything. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
why we
yeah,
approached you guys about possibly making a proprietary Mirai hose at some point, and that's not where we're at right now because we just want to see what happens. Will
yeah.
people,
Of course.
will
Yeah,
people get on board with this hose? But
yeah. Absolutely.
we test everything. So we've been testing the hose for 18, almost 2 years, right?
Hmm,
And we've got
hmm,
hoses that we started testing at the same time we started testing Goodland's hoses that have already fallen apart and needed
hmm.
replacing. And so those kinds of things, like those side by side tangibles for me, I need to see that
Yeah,
and know that and experience that and before we put our name behind it. But like it's very real. What you guys are making is awesome. It's radical.
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, yeah. And I think you're right about the. You've got a good point. Hey, if you make a spray bottle last forever, like you're not gonna have a business out of it. And there's a seed of in the back of my head, a thing about that. But I mean, the need for garden hoses, and just good products is. I mean, there's millions of people in the world, and we want to reach them, and we're more committed to making good product and having people keep that and having it be part of their daily life than we are, trying to, crack $1 billion sales or something
Totally.
like that. Like, we're not, we're, our focus isn't on this. Um, we're lucky in a sense that we get to sell enough products to, put food on the table for the family and for me and the people that work here and my wife. She's part of the business as well. So, we our ambitions are, we have ambitions, but our ambitions are on making good product, not generating the most revenue we can
Of
here.
course.
So,
Yeah.
so when someone says, "Hey, can you make a spray bottle that never breaks down?" Like we actually take that as, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that idea, and that's where the idea for the garden hose came. We had our hot tubs out there, and those are made to last forever. And I was filling it with a hose that I had actually duct taped, not once, but I had duct taped,
Right.
like there was one layer of duct tape and then it was coming out around that. And then I had duct tape on top of that. And I thought, like, I just threw it down one day and I thought, we've got to make something better.
Yeah.
And so we took all our engineering capabilities and design capabilities. We have a small design team here, and just what would be the best materials to use for this? Like, how can we build the best hose, kind of thing? And that's the approach that we take with it. And I like you brought up the brass faucet. Um, Brass is I love that little guy, that faucet. We sell a lot of those. They're very popular. And that was like an idea, you know, I need a faucet that just hooks up to a garden hose, something with a simple on off,
And the bracket that it mounts to, well designed.
yeah,
It's on
let's keep,
point, man.
we like to keep things simple. And, I think the best style of product is one that just like kind of quietly disappears into your life. Like it becomes part of your use, but it doesn't, need your attention every second, or it's just dependable. It's there when you need it. Um, and we love the faucet. And something about using brass, and I think brass is a material. We use it for our hose fittings. We use it wherever we can out in the garden. So brass and aluminum are like the best for outdoor uses. They'll essentially last forever. But we use kind of like a nautical grade brass that they use it in ships, right? It's been something that's been part of shipbuilding for, I don't know, thousands of years.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and what we love about that is the patina that it gets over time. And the same thing with the garden hose itself. Like you're probably running it through the garden, it gets dirty, it builds that character on it. And it's somehow, to me, it ties back to the way, you're like your dad being from the ranch, right? Like a good pair of jeans, they would throw a patch on it
Oh
if it
yeah.
ripped,
Oh yeah.
or something broke, they would fix it, right? And so good things have that patina, that those marks and wears of time and use, in my mind. And I think that crosses over a lot with bonsai.
Hmm.
Um, and so we like to, products that we want them to look good when they arrive, but we also like them better over time, actually, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
absolutely.
Um,
That's that's like the markers of like a life well lived, or something that's
yeah.
contributed, a life well yeah, a life well lived. Or I think the bigger one is like something that's well used, well worn,
Hmm.
that's held up, that's been loved, that's been put to the test. Like I love that. I love that story. And you see
Yeah.
the intangible aesthetic in bonsai that you cannot artificially duplicate is time. Is time. It's the
Hmm.
greatest value
Yeah.
add to a tree if
Hmm.
you're talking about monetary value. It's by
Hmm.
far and away like the most important part of the art form. Like I remember when I just got into bonsai, I would go to these people's gardens and I would see these old trees, and the feeling of want, of like desire to own that age was like so strong as a kid. And then over the course of time I've realized like it's actually the journey of getting to that point that creates the most pivotal um
Hmm.
and valued aspect of this journey with this tree, is like seeing that happen over the course of time, being a part of that, fostering that. Like that
Hmm.
has become, and I see people come and want our work that has that kind of age because it's undeniably beautiful. But for me,
Hmm.
as a bonsai practitioner, I've realized it's not about the end product and seeing it, it's about the accumulation of that. And I see that in everything that we use here. Like I had this
Hmm.
original plier from the first day of my apprenticeship in Japan, and it was, instead of being silver, it was black from all of the pine sap and the
That's
hundreds
awesome.
of thousands of times. Yeah, and TSA took
Yeah.
it from me on a
Oh,
trip, and it was like this. It was like more. They could have
crushing.
taken my computer. They could have taken my car.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
plier was. It just carried
Uh,
everything I had been through, everything it had been through with that patina,
hmm.
and then all of a sudden it was gone. So now I've got a vintage pair of pliers that I'm I'm trying to break in with the next 2 decades of bonsai work or something.
That's my goal, is to be, when I die, I hope that, people look at this collection of things, not a lot of things that I had, but the things that I had that I cared about that were part of my daily life, and they'd be like, wow, look how much he used this thing,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's a good goal to strive to, I think.
I think so too. I think so too. And I think it's cool when you find, because that used to be the mentality of goods that were made, right? Like if it wasn't made to
Hmm.
last, it wasn't going to sell back in the day when there
Hmm.
was a lot less option and a lot less quantity. Like you had to make something good. I like the original Apple computers. My son has an Apple
Hmm.
computer that I got in 2010 that still works.
Wow.
You're never
Yeah.
going to have that happen with an Apple computer that you buy right now. That was what made
Yeah.
Apple worth investing in back then. Like that value system
Yeah.
shift. Anytime I can find that value system in a company now, it's like I'm all in. I'm I'm
Hmm.
I'm I'm going to go deep. Like it's my greatest
Hmm.
aspiration to have one of your wood-fired hot tubs. I think they are so cool, and I totally get into 2 hours before you get to take a dip in that thing. Like that works just fine for me, because that's 2 valuable hours of preparing for this moment to slow down, and that ritual of that action. I love that stuff. I love it.
It's the anticipation, right? And I think that must be something that you guys are always kind of like teasing with. And we had this conversation yesterday, actually. Was, a lot of people that land on our website are like, oh, it takes an hour and a half to heat up the hot tub. And I said, like, to be honest with you, most of the time I spend 7 hours doing it, because I wake up on a Sunday and, I got a sip of coffee. I put my little garden slippers on and I scoot out to the hot tub, and I skim the top to take any pine needles out or something. And then I start a little fire in the thing. And then every hour and a half, I go out, I throw another log on, and then I take the kid to her reading lessons and come back, and maybe Kendra and I go for a run or something, and we have a brunch. And then all of a sudden it's, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that anticipation of us having a warm tub, the tub's been kind of steaming a little bit all day, you know, the family gets in, and it's like it's a great way to spend time. And I think it's that anticipation of it, right? Like if it's just ready for you,
Yeah.
if it's convenience,
Yeah.
I kind of lose interest, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Like
Yep.
I was never a huge hot tub guy, but I think it's the building of it that creates the ritual. Maybe you get a little sliver, maybe you get some soot on your hands, and you got to stack some firewood. Like all that stuff is, you're putting in the effort, and then that just makes the reward so much sweeter in the end.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I'm into it, man. I'm totally into it. Those kind of rituals and what you just described, that's a good life. That's a good life.
It is a good life,
That's
right?
an aspect of good life. And
That
like when we think about that, I think people are looking for ways to have a good life, and it is tough to combat. I find this all the time, especially in bonsai. Like, yeah, I want to expedite the process. Yes, I would like for this to happen faster. Patience is a part of bonsai, but it's not a part. It's
Mhm.
not a part of bonsai. I didn't come to bonsai because I was patient. I have
Mhm.
900 bonsai, so I don't have to be as patient, right? If this one's not going to do it, I'm going to
Yeah.
let it do its thing. I'm going to focus on this one over here, kind of a thing. But
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
yeah, but I do aspire. When it's like when I think about when I look at my life and like what I want from my life, ultimately, I love being outside of the urban environment in a much less populated place, functioning on my own timeline, which ideally is far slower than modern life. And inside of
Hmm.
that, I think I find a better version of myself. And I'm and
Hmm.
I'm looking for that on a continuum. It's interesting though, like the influence of technology, phones, social media keeps you so revved up. It keeps you so
Hmm.
on this like unsustainable, not hamster wheel, like that. I think that's like a played out term. It's just more like a pace that we're not adapted to.
Yeah.
Not fighting that, but finding ways to have rituals in life that like create a little bit more sustainability, a slower pace, and allow you to just enjoy, like enjoyment, family, presence of people that you love, things that you enjoy doing, just having a moment to think, things like that. I'm looking for that constantly in life.
I think that those things you're talking about, Ryan, to me, those are what luxury is right now.
Oh,
Luxury.
that's
It's kind of
interesting.
the
Okay.
free time to kind of do that and get into that and do something that you love. It like you say, the social media, phones are beeping everywhere. Uh, and we don't live like a recluse life by any means, but I think a slow life, an intentional life, and having those tactile kind of like analog experiences, that is what we think of as luxury kind of thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the treat. It's the goal. It's the goal that I certainly have for my life, is to spend more time doing those things. So, and I don't think that you and I are alone with that sentiment.
No, no, I don't
Um,
think so at all. I think it's the allure for Americans to go to Europe. Like I think the Europeans
yeah.
figured that out a long time
Yes,
ago. I think
that's a
they're I
good
think
point.
they're
Yeah.
they're getting like pulled into having to keep up with the world
Yeah.
in this sort of global condition, but I think in
Hmm.
general when I go to Italy or Spain, it's
Hmm.
I just think they do it right. I think they do it a little bit better because they haven't
Yeah.
lost sight of what's valuable, which is ultimately with this gift we have of living at this point in
Hmm.
time. If you spend all of your time not slowing down and not enjoying it, what is the point? What is the
Yeah.
purpose and the
No.
point? You know?
Good. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
when
Nailed it on the head.
when you guys, because Goodland has grown, you're a relatively young company that kind of started during the pandemic, but you have a
Yeah.
fairly wide number of things that you make and offer. And you're saying you're not trying to max out profitability, which it's like when is enough enough, and I really respect that. We at Mirai, as long as we can keep the lights on and I get to do bonsai, I'm pretty happy. Like
Oh yeah.
that's what I need. I'm good right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But how do you go about? I mean, I've challenged you with the indestructible spray bottle, but like, how do you go about deciding that you're going to add something else, and where do those ideas come from? Like, because it's a big lift to do R&D and design something and find how to make it and get through all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a innate need that I have it baked into myself is to create new things that
Hmm.
other people will enjoy. And so, it's something I've been doing since I was a little kid. I would, after I took sewing class in grade seven, I started sewing little pouches and stuff that I would try to sell to friends. And it's been something that's I've always had a passion for is making, yeah, of course my pouches weren't like high quality then, but you know, I've always had a passion for just like creating new things that I want for myself. And I'm pretty sure like at least 10 other people would want this. That's kind of how
Right.
the idea starts, to be honest with you, right? It's like I really want to take a wood burning hot tub and mix it with like a bathtub, like just so it's the right size. It's not too big. It doesn't, not too much water, etc. Like, I think that 10 other people might be interested in this.
Yeah.
And that's just the same way all of our products have started, to be honest. It's something that I think I want because I want to go out there and try to find it, but someone doesn't have the exact one that I want. And then I just get basically like fixated on making that. And
Hmm.
I have to like actively try to edit. Like, no, that idea you had is a bad idea, Craig. Like, not every idea is a good idea, right? Um, and so I do have to kind of vet them, and that's where Kendra and I really work well together on that. But we've kind of got we stumbled early into this kind of hot tub bathing world, and then the next thing, because we were filling up hot tubs with cracked hose, was this kind of gardening world.
Hmm.
And like the products are used for gardening, but they're just used in everyday life too. Everybody,
Sure.
even if you don't have a garden, you got to spray the driveway off or clean your car or whatever you have to do. Spray your golf clubs off, whatever you're into. And so, yeah, we basically said, well, that's a great idea. And now we've got this, we put it out there, and basically people love it.
Uh-huh.
People are coming back. Like we can see, obviously the nature of people. It's an expensive product, but people are coming in. They're buying a little one to kind of see, are the claims that this company is making true? Is the customer service good? Do they stand behind their product? Um, we ship them off one, and then weeks, months, or years later, they're coming back and they're buying more because they're waiting until their other hose, kicks the bucket, and then they're coming back and getting more. So we've got a community there, and we want to start bringing them more things that they're going to love.
Yeah.
When you start like when you look at the world with whatever glasses I was unfortunate to be given, is that well, we can create anything. It's just kind of like what makes the most sense for people. What do we think people will like? What do we think they'll use day to day? And so we kind of edit those ideas before handing them off to our design team. Not handing them off, like I work every day with the design team.
Hmm.
And so we do have uh, more products in development. I think top secret for now, but more that your world is going to like as well.
Cool.
Watering has become so like water itself, and watering things and filling things with water and emptying them with water has become such like a core foundation for our business. We're just like, well, let's do some more of this.
Hmm.
What other products are out there that there aren't other companies making great versions of? How Let's get into that. Maybe it is a spray bottle. Maybe it's, who knows what it is. Because if there's such a big world out there, so many people, like even just on our continent, um, that are looking for these things, and they want that sentiment of like, I'm sick of buying. Like, I remember when we got our first hose here, we had bought 4 hoses in 5 years. Um, like other companies' hoses. So we had bought, every year I'm sprint going out and then it breaks. And then what do? You just throw it in the landfill. So, um, yeah, we're always seeking kind of those opportunities for new products and trying to decide which are good ideas and which are not good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such, I feel like in the beginning with a company, it's, you have a good idea or a couple good ideas and you can build a company off that. And then
Hmm.
as those good ideas become what you do and you try to add more ideas that are good ideas that work with the original ideas and continue to advance the idea of where you want to go, it becomes
Hmm.
harder and harder. You've got to be more and more discriminating. You've got to edit more brutally. It's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
find
that's
that
right.
process to be so painful over the course of time. To It's like the longer you're around, the harder it is to bring something new to life, because there's just so much more baggage and weight to whatever it is you're doing based on what you've
Yeah,
done and where you want to be going to do what you want to do. It's like
there's added complexity for sure.
yeah, and I feel like the companies that are able to continue breaking new ground somehow are able to shirk that. They sort of shrug off that concern or limitation, and, and
Hmm.
and maybe that's the way they make it look, or maybe that's actually what's happening. But I always do admire companies or designers or creatives that are able to continually reinvent themselves or continually come up with ideas that are of the same caliber that they've built their name on, but don't
Hmm.
necessarily limit them in what they're committed to doing. I think that's
Hmm.
really cool. But I was going to ask you, do you still build furniture?
Yeah, yeah, I still build furniture. Yeah, not as much as I kind of used to. I mean, I was never honestly the world's best woodworker. Like, or what? Okay, I was never even really probably a qualified good woodworker, to be honest. But I mean, it was just the kind of uh, ability to. It is that kind of mix of like craftsmanship, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit
Mm,
that's where my kind of nexus was kind of thing. So I ended up actually as it grew the company and like hiring woodworkers instead of doing the woodworking
okay.
kind of thing. Yeah, well, I think I went to install my first set of drawers. It was like this ain't for me, man. I love to make a coffee table, love to make a dining table, but you start to get into more complicated joinery,
Yeah.
doing dovetails and that kind of thing, and it's just yeah, ooh, that just I was like, maybe I'm not a woodworker. I'm more I need to create things. And so um, that happens in a physical way, but also in a way of like we are running a business here too. So what I was creating yesterday was a new process for one of our marketing teams kind of thing, right?
Uh-huh.
So um I'm fascinated with I do am drawn to creating physical things, like that's where my heart is. But creating things, um even maybe a new process in our business is also part of the journey as well too.
I
So
get it. I get it. I enjoy all of it. I enjoy some
yeah,
of
of
it more than others. But
course.
I,
Yeah.
I enjoy running this business that does provide puts food on the table and provides a livelihood. Like, I like thinking about how to make it better, how to serve our community better, how to have the team be able to work better, more efficiently, more
Hmm.
happily. I think one of the big things I've had to kind of continually think about is, how do I operate a company that still allows me to do bonsai? That's
Yeah.
been a long-standing
Yeah.
challenge, and it's like a nut that I really cracked like last year in the fall, where I was like, oh,
Nice.
I've got to make some big changes if I really want this to be
Hmm.
what I want it to be. And it's like
Cool.
it's been revolutionary this year.
So
Unbelievable.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're super excited to be partnering with you guys. Like, bonsai is I'm limited truly in my knowledge of bonsai. Like, especially when I'm talking to you, I'm like intimidated because I don't know everything about bonsai. I know like the outsiders. I have a brief understanding of the outsider's perspective, but like just it's to me it's like like there's gardening, there's all kinds of different gardening, agriculture, farming, like lots of great things, but it is a, niche part that I think is just so cool, and I want to explore it so much more. Like, I'm definitely going to tap into that Vancouver, try to get
Yeah.
connected to that world a little bit, just to learn a little bit more about it. I think it's so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll happily provide you a list of resources that you can really sink your teeth into and dig in, because there is a long-standing community up there. There's a lot of resources
the,
for you. But
the
I'm
the
happy.
history part you talked about too is super interesting to me too, like how it ties into, that is very interesting.
There is definitely an anthropological aspect to bonsai that certainly in Japan during my apprenticeship, you'd see trees that were, pre-World War II trees were highly valued because so many trees expired during that time. A lot of trees were planted in the ground as bonsai that have become much larger trees, to survive the war. And but there are like these vestiges of like the feudalistic period of Japan, like trees that were owned
Mm.
by a Tokugawa shogun, or stones in the stone viewing
Oh.
art form of Suisa. And I get into that, but ultimately, what really anthropologically drove my interest was how the aesthetic of trees shifted with culture and individuals. Like
Hmm.
seeing the European trees at a cumulative exhibition and the different aesthetics that come from a British tree to a Spanish tree to an Italian tree to a
Hmm.
French tree to a German tree. It's very apparent. It's very visually apparent. So there's a lot
Yeah.
definitely to dig into, but we're super excited to be partnering with you guys too. I really am both flattered and appreciative that you guys enjoy and like what we do, that we kind of support each other. I think it's the beginning of something really, really cool, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited at the direction that we're headed together. So I appreciate it. I
Cool.
appreciate the faith in what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I got to get down there one day. Like put it on the to-do list.
Yeah, I would love it if you and Kendra were up for making the journey, and yeah, we would definitely make it an experience for you guys to come.
Feel like the kids would be really interested in it too, is there a young, like, my kids are little, they're 6 and 8, but is there a youth, like, are young people interested in bonsai? How is that going?
Yeah. I think that approaching kids, the younger the better, with bonsai is the single most significant thing that I can do to both introduce the notion of stewardship to the next generation at a pivotal time where they can take it on and it can grow into like a really
Hmm.
significant
Hmm.
level of awareness, as well as I think kids take to bonsai like a duck takes to water. I just think it's a
Mm.
really critical time. Most of my best students had exposure to bonsai as kids, and now their
Hmm.
dedication to it at a time in life
Yeah.
where they're ready for it is significant, and they have a deep connection. For me, it was when I was 12. I've got a lot of students that have that same experience. But we've been taking bonsai into schools around the Pacific Northwest, as
Mm.
well as in my home state of Colorado, for the past like decade. Working with kids, we're getting ready to do a pediatric oncology project with OHSU, which is a research medical facility here in Portland, to
Hmm.
use bonsai as a little bit of a healing mechanism. And yeah, we have a nonprofit that we started called the One Tree Project that is highly focused on youth education and experiences with bonsai. So
Mm.
I think it's the single biggest age group and demographic that bonsai can serve. Yep, and it's a big
And it's
deal.
just exposure, right? Like, it's just they've got an aunt or an uncle who's into it, and that's how they kind
Or
of get
or
introduced to it. Or
yep,
like you guys
grandparent.
come to the school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it's not even just letting them see bonsai. That doesn't do much. Letting them get their hands on a tree,
Yeah.
have this experience, touch it, prune
Yeah.
it, break it maybe, wire, like go
Mhm.
through all of the gauntlet of possibilities in this endeavor.
Yeah.
And to allow them to connect to whatever part of that, sort of speaks to them.
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
we really found, honestly, and I think maybe you guys find this too because you're creating some familial components to your company, in like the hot tub and like that lifestyle that surrounds um, that process. Or I'm thinking of something, not practice, but like that surrounds that ritual. There we go. Um,
Hmm.
the trees, when we do this in schools, the trees go home with the kids. Now the family's involved and the family is interested in it.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's another beautiful thing. But then the family, this starts to trickle out to, they start to support local businesses that might offer material where their other kids could make a bonsai tree because one of their kids at school had this experience. Now they all want to do it. And that
Yeah.
starts to facilitate more of a community thing. And what we've
Hmm.
seen with like the community component of bonsai is that if there is a bonsai museum or a public bonsai garden in a given area, that you can create an entire community and economy around bonsai that is, I'm going to say it's probably the most positive, low carbon footprint, positive activity that you could introduce a family and a community
Yeah.
to. And I
Yeah.
feel fantastic about what we're doing with that because it's not like we're
Cool. Yeah.
trying
That's
to,
so cool.
yeah, there's no monetary the component to it. It's just, this is a kick-ass thing that's led to a better life for me. I would love to share this with people, and in doing so, like seeing wherever that goes for them, it's better than where they were when they started, beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's bonsai is
Totally.
not
Yeah.
going to ruin your family or make things worse for you. It absolutely is not.
Someone will be calling in with one story
Yeah,
where
right, right, right. Yeah, my dad got into bonsai and I never saw him again because he was in his
no,
workshop all day playing with tiny trees. Yeah, there's probably something out there somewhere. But anyways, well, Craig, I really
that's great.
I appreciate the time, man. Thanks for
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. It was great
yeah,
talking to you.
definitely. And I do just want to say, please come down and see us. I would love to
I will
have you guys.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And likewise too, like if you're ever up in, we got a little place here on the island. If you ever want to come up, I'm gonna do some research on about bonsai in our city and make some connections there because super interesting and great to talk to you. We're excited to be working with you guys, and I hope your students and your followers and your people love us.
Yeah.
So
I I was introduced to you by a student who said
nice.
you need to work with Goodland. This company is kick ass. That was the
Cool.
beginning of this. I think that the Mirai community is gonna be really really psyched to know about you guys and to get to
Cool.
experience what you guys are making. So yeah, to the future, my friend.
All right. Looking forward to meeting some of them. All right.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Take care, Ryan.
Thanks.